Hey, welcome back to the Identity Jedi podcast. Look around. We've got a special edition. This is our first ever. Wait, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's up there. You see it? You see it? You see it? You see that down there? Boom. First ever sponsored podcast brought to you by Readibots. I'm excited about this podcast. We've been planning this for a while. No Samir this time. I believe Samir's out at RSA hanging out, and he probably, if those of you who've been to RSA, you know how those RSA nights goes. So I got a feeling Samir's probably feeling it this morning, but we'll catch up with him on the next episode. But I'm so excited to have Readibots not only sponsor this episode, but come in and have a great conversation. One of my all-time favorite people in the world just joined that organization. He's been on the podcast before. He'll be on this podcast now. And so that's going to be fun. And then also, I really just love what they're doing over at Readibots. I love their approach and the things that they're taking about, and we're going to dig into that here in the podcast. So without further ado, let's get to it. This sponsored Identity Jedi Show podcast by Readibots. Let's bring in our guests. All right. Boom. Let's do this. And boom. There we go. Welcome, David and Justin. Welcome to Identity Jedi Show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you guys doing today?
Excellent.
Yep, doing great.
All right.
Super excited to be here.
Yeah. Are you? So wait, I have to ask this. Are you guys? I know it's a Canadian company. I know David is very Canadian. Justin, are you also Canadian? Are you guys both in Canada right now?
No, I'm actually in the exotic state of Utah, which
okay.
is a contradiction in terms. But yes, I'm in Utah.
The other Canada.
The other
Just
Canada.
kidding, Utah. Just kidding. Don't come for me in the comments. You probably will, but whatever.
Yeah, I've been here for decades, so I love it here. So
Nice. All right, cool. Well, excited to have you guys on the show. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the show. And I want to give before we get into a quick nod to the audience as you're watching this. Listen, we're going to be trying to be doing more of these sponsored shows, but we do these a little differently here, right? It is obviously, yes, it is a paid sponsorship, but it's here to kind of talk about not only Readibots and what they do, but just kind of their vision and things on identity. As we kind of do these shows, it is one of those things where I want to make sure anybody that wants to reach out and sponsor, so for vendors that are watching this, it's about having a conversation, right? I am David knows this. I'm very authentic. It is very hard for me not to be. I want to be honest. I'm only going to talk to sponsorship packages of organizations that I believe in, that I like where they're going, that I think are worth the time to come onto this show, because this kind of how I look at it. That's the joy about kind of having your own thing. You kind of make up your rules. And I'm just like, well, I kind of want them to be cool people and like what they're doing. And then they can sponsor their podcast. We can do something together. So there you go, vendors. If you're looking to do this and like, hey, we want to do this, you got to go through the gauntlet. You got to come talk.
Dave Lee's got to love you first. We got it.
That's pretty much it, man. I listen, but we're going to get into this right now. Like, I think that the space of identity, right, is so ripe for disruption right now. And I like talking to people who know that, realize that, and actually want to try and do something different, right? And that's one of the things that I really like about Readibots and the approach that you guys are taking. And what I want to kind of get into right now is to talk a little bit about that approach. And I'll kind of start with you, David, as you recently just kind of came on there. What about it when you came across Readibots? Like, what about it excited you to the point that you're like, yeah, this is kind of where I want to be?
Oh, great question. So I, like you, really do believe that identity needs some disruption. We need to take a new approach to this problem, because you look at the problems we're trying to solve in identity. They're the same problems we're trying to solve 10 years ago. There's tools to help us with some parts of the problem, but we're not solving the whole picture. We don't see the whole picture. We're not doing that. What I really got excited about when I was talking with the folks at Readibots is they acknowledge that that's exactly the problem they're trying to solve. They're not trying to redo the stuff that people already do. You've already bought some identity solutions. They do good, cool identity things. Awesome. Where are the gaps? What are the actual problems? And the problems are getting everything to fit together is impossible. You got these big jigsaw pieces that sit there, but the connective stuff, the stuff between them, those problems that they don't directly address, man, they're all over the place. So how do you do that? Well, you build a solution from the ground up. First of all, it's got to be SaaS nowadays. It's got to be in the cloud, which immediately makes it more modern than most of the identity solutions out there. But then on top of that, you've got to be able to address, it's got to be really, really flexible. And this is something that JT has been championing since I first got introduced to Readibots a number of years ago. He's been championing this idea of, look, we have to make this flexible. So we're building this platform first that gives us these enterprise tools to then go and solve what are essentially a number of somewhat disconnected at times individual identity problems. Bring them all together to one place, so your company isn't running around with 26 different vendors trying to solve this piece and this piece and this piece and this piece.
Yeah.
You're going to still have big guys out there because they're really good at what they do, but in between them, solving those other problems, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, nice. And actually, I messed up. We kind of did this backwards, but whatever. I should probably let you guys introduce yourselves so people know who you are. I know who you guys are because I love you guys, right? And David and I have gone back a long time. But so we'll start with JT. JT, just kind of introduce yourself, what you do at Readibots for the people out there, so they can start to become fans.
Okay, well, thank you. So I head up the product side of the house here, and my background goes way back to identity before it was identity. For those people who really want to get nerdy, I'll use the term bindery services for Network 2 fans way back when. Yeah, I used to be the chief strategist at Novell for identity, former Gartner analyst. I've done all sorts of things with identity, deployed it, built the products, and gave analysis of them, did things like you're doing here. I've done a lot of this kind of stuff, but yeah, as David said, I'm all about making things simpler and really being able to do the things we say we're supposed to be able to do in identity.
There you go. That's a good way to put it.
Nice. I like it. David, introduce the people.
Yeah, sure. So
to the people.
Yeah, so my name is Dave Bullis. I've been working in the identity space for a very, very long time. And before it was identity and it was Active Directory security, I was involved in that as well. In the last number of years, I've worked with some of the big identity vendors. I've gotten a couple of interesting spots with ITDR and Vector Authentication. And now I'm working here with Readibots as their VP of Sales and Solution Engineering.
Nice. Awesome. JT, I want to pop this question over to you, man, because we've had conversations about this, and when, for those of us that have been in identity a long time before it was identity, and then kind of going through all of this, right? We had a conversation early on, a couple of months ago, about like kind of getting back to like the core of the problem we're trying to solve, right?
Yeah.
At some point, we kind of shifted away from that. Right? When this whole thing started, it was just like, I got these bunches of accounts, and I need to manage the accounts and make sure I know who is what accounts and can give access. And then we just we kind of still do that. We talk about it at the core, but like, it seems like solutions kind of got away from that. So talk to me a little bit about that philosophy you have of like kind of getting back to the core of solving that problem.
Yeah, sure. When identity first started coming around, let's say, when we first started using the term early 2000s, late 90s, it was all about productivity and automation and getting stuff done, because everybody realized that if I can take the human being out of the picture, number one, I get things done faster, but also it's a natural consequence of that is you're going to be compliant. You're going to be governed. Take the human out of it and you don't have as much of the problem. And somewhere along the line, we got away from that. And it became less about how many systems can I connect to and how many systems can I actually automate something for, like creating the users and all those kind of things, the traditional identity lifecycle. We became more about governance. And what governance became was less about the doing and more about the reporting. It became this nice screen that says, hey, here's this really cool thing. And really what it's telling you is your house is on fire. The whole thing's on fire. It's the Jedi Temple. It's Vader's there, Imperial clone troopers coming in and just blowing the crud out of your place. But I'm not going to do a dang thing to help you about it. What I'm going to really do is give you these tools that will allow you to tell you just how bad it actually is. And then I will maybe take 10 to 15% of that load off of you. And the rest of it, I'm going to shove over into the service desk. And so when they show their metrics, it's like, look, I've got this wonderful experience. I had all these issues that were found. All these people have certified. I've complied with Sarbanes-Oxley and whatever else I need to deal with out there. And it's all done. See how wonderful it is? In reality, the service desk's hair is on fire. And they're trying to figure out how to keep up with this load because you just dumped all this crud onto them. Yep. And they're trying to figure out how to go out and get it done. And that's really where we're coming in, is we looked at it and said, if we go back to the basic root of what the problem that we were trying to solve for identity was, it's how do I manage that process and automate it, not just create a report about it. And that's where we focus on, is that aspect.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because I can kind of pinpoint when we lost our way too, if you think about it, right? Is we started figuring out identity was a thing and we wanted to start solving it. But the problem, which we still have today, is we couldn't articulate business value. We couldn't articulate like why it was important to go spend money to do this thing. So then what do? We pivoted to, well, we can help you do this. And then compliance came around, right? Sarbanes-Oxley. Thank you, Enron and Anderson
Yep.
Consulting for just,
One word, Enron.
right, right.
That's
Like
what's
seriously, like it's like the butterfly effect thing. Like it's I challenge you. So if you're new to identity, if you've been in identity less than a decade, you probably don't know this. Like, take some of us more seasoned ones that have been around to understand like why Enron actually matters. And for some of you, probably don't even know what we're talking about when we say Enron. Like, go Google it. But like, literally, the collapse of that company, right, and the scandal that came out with Anderson Consulting came down to legislation being passed. Sarbanes-Oxley, SOX, SOX, not SOC 2, the different SOC, because we can't come up with different acronyms so to save our lives. But anyway, what came down from that is like, hey, we need to be able to manage and control like who has access to certain things. Like the guy cutting the invoices shouldn't be able to write, like shouldn't be able to like execute the invoices at the same time. Like he shouldn't be able to go in and be like, oh, I'm gonna pay myself, I don't know, $10,000 bonus this, right? And then approve that, right? So what did that come down to, right? It started with financial records and how you manage this and making sure that those were clean. But then that started going down to like, but hey, we need to manage the systems because this is where people get the access to make sure we're managing that. And so what do? We held on to that and say, oh, we can help you with this. Why? Because every single company had to figure that out. And so then we tied ourselves to the compliance bucket and then we just the train and we just stayed over there. And so then we became kind of, slave to responding to what they needed on the business side. And we got away from identity, right? But why? Because that's where we were getting the checks from, right? And today we're a capital society. You're building a business. You want to sell software. You want to get paid. That's where they were writing the checks. And we kind of got away from that, which is very, for me, is always interesting. I love studying history because history always repeats itself, right? Or what's the quote? Like,
Yep.
history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, right? Like you just see the same things over and over and over again, right? And you kind of have to understand what led to this to be able to help you predict like why people react the way why they do. So I've made the statements, right, when I looked at it and when I've seen your guys' platform that you guys are like the Zapier or the Make of identity, right? Like this nice automation platform where it's like, what do you need to do? Connect this app, connect this. Oh, cool, nice, right? And so and I love that. And for everybody, listen, this is me saying that's not them saying that, but like, I love that, just that thought process and that philosophy behind it, because a lot of this stuff can be solved by like, hey, let me just grab these things, orchestrate them together, give the actual IT person, the services person, the person who's in charge of this, the power to go solve some of these things while like the bigger identity things are happening, right? Because for those of us that have done identity projects, and it was funny, I was having a conversation at RSA about this, right? IGA, PAM, these things are heavily business process. There's a bunch of stuff you got to go do. Access management, not as much, but still, there's some things you got to go do, have these conversations with the application owner, figure things out. That stuff takes time, right? And most of the time, the business doesn't want to hear it. You got to do all these stuff, whatever. What I kind of look at what you guys are doing and what I love what you guys would offer to customers, like, okay, great. Hey, well, you guys are figuring that out. I'm just going to go because while you're doing that, I'm still getting 1,000 tickets every day that I got to go finish. And the stuff still's not getting done. We still can't figure out who has access. So I can just start automating some of this stuff, making kind of things happen, and I can still track it and see it. And then we can just progressively get better once we figure out where that is. And I think that right there, I think it's a powerful message and story to tell, especially to organizations they kind of sit in this middle ground of like, hey, we're not quite ready for a big enterprise solution. We're kind of a little bit more advanced than some of the newer up and comers. And so they kind of sit in the middle. It's like, well, what do we do? Right. And I think you guys are going to end up playing a very powerful story to them and a key component to helping them solve a lot of this stuff. So anyway, that's my rant and how I feel about it. But, David, I'm going to pop this over to you, man. As you kind of you're coming in, you're looking at it, you're getting your feet wet here at Readibots. What are the challenges in identity that you've seen that you feel you guys are best primed to help customers solve?
Well, you just talked about one of them there that's really important, which is identity projects are long, cumbersome, expensive, and to a great extent, they only really provide value at the end. And a lot of identity projects fail because they're 18 months into a 30-month process, and they run out of money, initiative, the people change. Like they're very difficult projects. That is one of the things we are built to address, because our whole approach is very much an agile approach. If you think of those big, long, monolithic projects as being the old sort of waterfall model, right? You just kind of keep going to and then reiterate. We're saying, well, hold on a second. I can't wait 18 months to provide value. My boss will shoot me. I just spent a whole pile of money. So we describe this approach as the agile identity approach. We need to be agile. We need to provide value in the first week. We need to provide value in the first month, and then the next month, and the next month, and continuously, iteratively, because it's exactly what you said. I'm going to look across and say, where are my problems? Oh, there's a problem. I'm just going to go solve it. I can solve that problem. Solve it, reiterate it, lock it down using our platform so that it's then repeatable. Okay, I got that problem mostly solved. Yes, there's still some, always adjusting because the business is changing. But now I've solved that piece. I don't have to deal with those tickets. Okay, what's the next? Oh man, I got a bunch of tickets up on that. Let me go solve that problem. Solve that problem. Boom, boom, boom. That is the Readibots approach. Keep solving problems. And as you solve them, our platform becomes more valuable to you. Awesome. You become more valuable to your company because you're solving these problems. Awesome. And you're automating those processes so that they're repeatable and they're automated. And this goes back to what I was saying before about JT and the team building this platform. It's the platform that I got excited about first. The ability to do so many of these important things, like lock your code down. I've written it, I've locked it down, and now I can delegate that as an action to somebody to say, okay, front desk people, I wrote this solution for you that's going to take care of these tickets. Here you go. And I'm going to delegate it to these guys, and you guys just got to go and launch the bot, and away it goes. Does this work? Comes back, ticket solved. Let's do that. Oh, what, you need a solution for that? Oh, let me go do that. Right. This is the heart of the project, of the power of the Readibots platform. And a lot of other stuff to do is all logged. Right? Hey, I know who ran that thing. I know who ran this thing. I know when it ran, and all of this stuff. Like, it's an enterprise solution. They built those core enterprise features in there, and now we're using it to solve all kinds of different problems.
Yeah.
And then I saw a couple of the problems they've actually solved, and I'm like, you did that? Holy cow! All right, we're in business now. We can go solve some really interesting things, and then now that's where we are. Nice. Continually solving new problems, and then being able to show those solutions and use those solutions to solve those problems for other people too.
Yeah, I think that's a hashtag and slogan you guys should push, right? Keep solving problems, right? That's
oh, hey.
There you go, marketing.
Yeah.
The other one is get her done. Yeah. We're gonna get what's his butt to get on there and get her done.
We unironically say get her done to each other in teams all the time.
Yeah. The interesting about this, David, is that when I was at Novell, we built DirectXML, which then became Identity Manager. Other people then went out and created their own identity managers after. And they all basically work the same. And they do the same thing. They're all about the identity lifecycle. But think about all those things that have to be done besides just managing the account. Even if the system actually can manage the account, which, when I was at Gartner, we did some secondary research and came up with the fact that 10 to 15%, that's the number of systems in an enterprise that are directly connected and managed to an IGA. That's it. Mm-hmm. Why? Well, because connector technology hasn't evolved since 1998. It's basically the same it's always been. You have to get out a compiler, you go and build this connector, and there it is. It's now set in stone. And, why do people say that the identity project failed? Well, it's because I never mature it. I never take it past the phase 1 or phase 2, because that's how they're going to say, well, we're agile. See, we do it in phases. Okay, but it stops at 2 because it reaches a point when it's like it's too expensive to keep moving it. It's too risky. It's too complex. Well, in our case, what we did is we took and we thought, well, what if you built an identity platform on top of an automation platform, which is a dramatically different thing. No one's ever done it before. And so when I came on to Readibots, it was originally called something else, but it had an automation platform. And we started looking and say, well, you know what you can do with this? You can do anything that you want. And the key thing about this is that when you come in with Readibots, it's not about, in this agile identity, it's not limited by my imagination. which is immense. I mean, I've got all this Star Wars stuff, so you can imagine
Yeah.
what my imagination is like. There's my Lorcana cards and all the other stuff going on. So I've got an imagination, and so does everybody in the company. But the problem is we can never keep up with your imagination. We're never going to be able
Yeah.
to do every single thing from a low code, no code type of way that people want. So what we always give you in this process, even for the stuff that we have no code or we have low code, you can always go to full code. And it's PowerShell, by the way. So we speak the language that IT is already using. And you can always go out to PowerShell to do more. So even if you have this data, I mean, think about this from a connectivity standpoint, right? What is it that costs or takes so long for us to get the project started? Well, I used to run this when I was at Nova Coast. I would go and, okay, let's analyze your systems. Let's do an analysis of all your systems, all your data. Let's figure out what's bad, what's good, what I need to clean up, what the process is that got the data bad. Let's change the process. Let's get the data consistent, and then we'll turn the dang thing on. That's why it takes so long.
18 months
Well,
later.
18 months later or longer, right? They come and say, oh, no, see, we get rapid value. We did it for AD. Oh, great. You did it for AD. That's like saying I can walk out my front door. That's not. Now
That's not getting you to Kansas.
That's now do it for everything else that you need, all those business applications and everything else. That's why none of them are connected. It's because in some cases you can't change the process. It literally can't be changed because the system can't be changed. Or it's a matter of somebody in an executive saying, I'm not changing, you change. And now you're sitting there in a stalemate, and ultimately the guy who outranks you by 17 levels in the organization is going to win. And so now you're stuck as an identity practitioner trying to get this stuff done. And so that's where we come in and say, well, what if you could actually clean up the data on the fly? And how do you do that? Well, instead of hard coding things into a connector, I give you the ability to transform it as it's flowing through the connector and as it flows through the entire process. So if I have some weird anomaly that comes in, let's say you do an M&A and you acquire this new company, they've got totally different job codes. Everything works off of job codes, right? I mean, not everything, but a lot of things work off of job codes and location and things like that. Well, they've got a totally different way of doing it. Okay, so in the previous one, either go deploy another identity solution for it and stand up something different, or you get them to change their data. Well, in our case, we'll just change it on the fly. We act more like a virtual directory in that particular case. We'll transform
Right.
as it's flowing through the system, in, out, whatever you need. And you're never limited by where I can fit you into my development cycle or my imagination of what I imagine something working as. You're in control at all times. That's why we call it a write code platform. It's
Yeah.
it's not full, it's not, low, it's all the above. Use the right level of code for what you're trying to accomplish.
And JT, you said something really interesting there, which I think is really informative. And we're taking this from a new approach. And Dave, you mentioned it earlier. You're talking about it, right? Identity platforms became governance platforms. I needed to produce a report that says these are the people that are. These are the places where we're out of compliance. Go create a bunch of tickets. Go. We're like, well, hold on. This has natural consequences and natural limitations. Hold on. What about coming at identity from an automation or provisioning platform stance? That's what Readibots has done. And at the end of the day, you still need a governance piece, right? Something out there that's got the fancy UI that makes the beautiful reports. But then you need something actually built from the ground up to go actually do things and actually solve problems. That's Readibots. That's what we do.
But yeah, and it's so a couple of points, right? I'm going to start with so JT, you use the term virtual directory, which I people that know me know I've been a huge fan of Radiant Logic for a long time, and that virtual directory, and here's the reason why, right? It's because when you start digging into this, and JT, you just went through the process that once you learn, that is what you end up having to do every single time. It's all this process stuff that you got to go figure out, and it's cleaning up that data, right? And what I always loved about Radiant and their virtual directory is okay, well, I have the if you give me the ability to make data look like however it needs to look when I want it to, oh, you're an LDAP, oh, you're JDBC, oh, you're a flat file, oh, I don't care. I'll make the whole thing look like an LDAP schema and you can come query it. Oh, I'll make the whole thing look like a really, fast database that you can go query, right? This ability to kind of transform and mutate and shape data to what you need, it was always powerful because I'm all right, if I have that, now here's what I can do. and this is what I talk to a lot of customers about now, and when I talk about implementation, is and also I'll be talking about in my Identiverse masterclass coming up in 2 weeks. But I talk about an identity blueprint, right? Which is I tell people it's like, okay, map out your digital identity schema, right? You got to understand that. So I got first name, I got last name. Where's my unique identifier? Okay, where's my groups? Where's my roles? What's this? What's this? Like my job code, my title, manager. Like, okay, now you have all these things that you know you want to track. Great. Now let's understand where all this data is coming from, what any rules around it, what you're using, what's displayed, what's not, right? And I would do this when I implement. I was always walk through this process. I go, now that I understand where this is, now I know what I need to go do. Most of the time, it's putting rules in my IGA system and creating all this stuff to turn it into what I need. But what I like about like what you talked about is like if I'm able to do this on the fly, now I can literally take that and go, I can define my identity blueprint like kind of in real time, and that can morph as I need it. Like, oh, like now M&A, boom, they got different job codes. Okay, hell, I'll just make a new attribute called new company job codes and I'll transfer it into it, make sure it matches, boom. And now I can send it to wherever I need to go, right? The ability to manage that data, right? That's where, you gotta go slow to go fast. I tell so many companies, I was like, slow down, understand what this is. And once you map that out and understand it, now you can move as fast as you want to. Because otherwise, all you're gonna do is you're gonna run fast for 2 feet, hit a wall. Get up. All right, I'm good. Run fast again, hit another wall. Because what you're doing, you're not taking the time to figure out where this stuff is coming from. So every time you want to go do something, it's like now you got to have another conversation. Well, we do our data like this. Well, I don't want to change my data. Here's a flat file. You go do that, but I don't need it. Go figure like what I get excited about, right? Because if I'm a practitioner right now, you give me what I know from like I need to go analyze this data. You give me a platform like you and go, okay, well, as I'm figuring it out, great. All right, boom. I'm gonna tell me what I need to do job codes. Great. Okay, boom. All right, job codes. I'm gonna transfer this over. What's next? Okay, no problem. Go to the next application. Oh man, you guys do it differently? No problem. Give me the data. I'll transform on the fly. Keep going. Oh my God. Like I will speed through an entire organization and get this stuff done. Why? Because the things that are important to me is the data and I can move it on the fly, right? I can control it. And one of the things, kind of David, to your point about like the automation platform, right? And this is something that and I don't know because I'm not in this industries, but I look at like Zapier, I look at Make, I look at these things, right? And I'm so surprised. Things like Tray.io kind of did this a little bit, right? I'm really so surprised that they're not bigger in enterprises like these automation and workflow platforms. So it's like, hey, we're gonna allow you just to kind of MuleSoft kind of did this maybe, and then it kind of fell off. Like, we're just gonna give you the ability to connect into applications and kind of like do what you want, right? And I wonder if it's just because people it didn't get into the right hands for those people with the imagination, JT. Because I'm just like, if I could give the business like, okay, you need to solve something like here, I'm gonna make it super easy, like to connect in stuff. Like, don't worry about that. You ain't technical. Like, just what you need to do every day. Like, what process. Go build it, and this automation platform will just kind of like handle everything for you, right? That I love that idea of like building from that and applying that to identity and building from there, right? Because that and that's just the start, right? Like you start to look at this and go, well, okay, we can solve this problem. There's a lot more things we can start doing. And I think that's where I'm interested to see identity get to is like, let's finally get out of this muck of the phase one, phase twos. We've never really made it out of there, right? Solve these simple problems of, okay, yes, I know they're complex, but in the grand scheme of everything we have to do, simple problems of like provisioning and getting accounts and like, we know how to do these things, right? So let's make those easier. And now that we've done that, right? Imagine a world where you've got 100% of your applications connected. You've got processes, the automated process that when you onboard a new application, it just goes into your system. Like now imagine this world and now you know who's access to what and what they can do. You can automatically remove stuff. Now what can you start doing? Right? Now you're just like, oh, well, shit. Now I can start maybe doing some real predictive analysis stuff because I know and see through my automations how I'm assigning access and who's getting accounts and how I'm provisioning and how I'm removing access. Now I can actually really start looking at things and going, I can actually do quantifiable risk and go like, well, this percentage of my users has access to application because I know I've got 100% application coverage. So I know with a real percentage how much risk I actually have. Like now this stuff actually starts to mean real things. And now we start really solving business problems around this because we finally got this foundation stuff fixed. There's so many customers I talk to that I'm like, we're still here. We're still having the same conversations. We still have to get you to understand the blocking, the tackling, whatever you want to call it. Like, let's get you connected. Let's get the data. Like, we've got to get there first because we can't solve any of the rest of it until we look there. So, all right, that was my second mini rant. I probably got one more in me, but that was it. Yeah.
Something you said there, Dave, triggered something for me too. What are we going to do with this time when we automate it, right? Obviously, we're going to go solve more problems. But one of the things I'd like that as identity professionals, I want to see us do is get better about security.
Yeah.
Like moving to the cloud has exposed just how tangled
we
the
don't know what
web
we're
we
doing.
weave.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we don't. People know what the. Yeah, I was quite going to say that, but that's very true in a lot of cases. But what it meant was the spaghetti that kept everything running is exposed because the endpoints are no longer built inside the perimeter. I couldn't build walls high enough to protect me. The walls are gone. Now everybody can see inside. And there's so many attempts to rebuild virtual walls, and none of it's really given us the level of security we had previously. At the same time, it's made us more agile. There's benefits. But man, we got real gaps there. And if I had connectivity, or even 50%, like better than the 10 to 15% that's real, right? Let's get us to 50% and make sure they're the key systems. Now I can see where access is. I'm eliminating those one-offs where someone just said, "Oh, I got this ticket. Bob needs access. I'll just give him access to everything, and we'll just solve it that way." Okay, ticket, get it out of my big. Those governance guys just gave me 100,000 tickets. I solved that one. I'm going to go to the next one. Instead of doing that, the ticket never shows up because they automated giving them the access. We spent some time adjusting our rules. New processes, new applications came on board. Fine, whatever, right? We spend time on the things that are important. Putting connections in place, responding to business drivers and their new business needs, spending time working focused on security. Like this is what we'll be buying. And it goes back to what one of the first things you said, which was we needed ROI for people to buy into the identity message. And it came from compliance, no question. But the next wave, you can see it in terms of spend, in terms of the questions that are being asked by the board. The next wave that's coming is security. And we're a long way from being able to say, hey, we're safe.
Yeah. And it's, it's interesting. I talked about it on the last pod with Paul Lanzi, one of our colleagues. He's an ID pro with us. Lance Peterman had posted this on LinkedIn, like, and because he manages and runs an identity team there. And he's just like, sorry to bring this up again, Lance. I promise, man, I'm not picking on you, but I think it's an interesting topic, right? Like he's just like, I don't want it. I don't want the security stuff. Like I've got enough problems with identity. Please don't bring this to me. I don't want to have to do it. Right. And I think that stance is a lot of identity practitioners, right? It's like, okay, well, we just want to do identity. We don't want to be security. And so this whole move right now that we're seeing in the industry, identity security, everybody's identity security platform now, right? I'll be nice. I'm not going to pick on companies this podcast, but you see this move in this marketing message to go do that, right? And listen, marketing is always ahead of the industry. That's their job, is to go market and create a market, right? So, but like we're not the actual industry, the practitioners and the businesses aren't ready for that yet. And we don't have an on-ramp program for them. What does it mean if we're going to turn, like, I agree with you, number one, but we got to start figuring out, like, what does that mean, right? What does that mean to take somebody who's been doing an identity and mostly, like, if we were to find, let's wave a magic wand and tomorrow we wake up and we fix all this stuff and now we're asking identity to be more security minded. Great. We got this person who probably for the last decade, all they know IT, they know responding to tickets. We fix some of that for them. They're starting to understand what identity means. And now we're saying, hey, now we want you to start, looking at this from a security perspective and being able to analyze your identity and access and determine like where threats are happening, or talk with your SOC. And as you're getting like, vulnerability reports and things that are coming in, what does that mean from an identity perspective, and where you need to start focusing on what processes we need to change to make sure that if somebody does come through or there is a risky behavior, we're seeing risky access on somebody's account as they're trying to log in, we think it's an account takeover. What does that mean for us and policies that we got to implement to protect the access that we put in place? How do you change your policy now? How do you respond to that? Right? You get an identity person, you get a security alert that says, hey, this account has been compromised. What do you do? Right? Like, okay, well, our automations are here and they're taking over, but no, we need to not only remove the access, but maybe we need to remove the access and kick off a script to go move their OneDrive over or something like that. It's just, what does this response look like for you now? Right? And I think with ITDR, what we saw is we saw people wanting to have this product and customers bought it. And then you had security teams and identity teams, and they're looking at each other like the Spider-Man meme going, that's you, right? Wait, nope.
That's you,
Who does?
right?
I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, what do we do? Right. And that's something we got to figure out. JT, you were gonna jump in there, man. Go ahead.
Well, it's funny you say that, and there's a couple things there. Let me respond to the first thing I heard there was, this notion that it's this either or type. It's like the teams, your security, I'm help desk or IT admin or something like that. In our particular case, Gartner likes to talk about democratization of automation, right? And that's what, certain types of automation we're supposed to do, so to a limited degree. So you can do that for certain things in just the general community or just the general enterprise. But when it comes to IT, it's different. IT isn't something that's just going to be, oh, just click here and click here. No, there's some complexity to that. If somebody creates a ticket from your SOAR or whatever it happens to be that says, go do this investigation, it isn't just a simple, oh, click this button. There's a bunch of scripts being run and there's a bunch of this and that going on. The thing is about building in an agile way is, what if I could take all that intellectual property, that's something that somebody already has the knowledge on, bring it into a system that says, I do it once, and now security, when they go off and they say, do this investigation, it just goes and does it. There's nobody has to be involved. I can go now work on something else, because all that knowledge that was in Justin or Dave's, or Dave, there's two Daves here, or whoever's head is now built into an actual automation bot. And it understands how it's supposed to go and initiate that. And that's one of the things that's really interesting about how we tried to approach this was, what if I could do that and take that knowledge, take the experience, use the language they understand, put it into, matter of fact, the simplest thing we do is take somebody's existing script for PowerShell and put it into our platform. And we secure it and strip down all the stuff it doesn't need and make it very simple and compact, and then just delegate that out to anybody who needs to use that particular script, or have it called from other bots so bots can chain between those bots. And it gives you this ability to be very agile and adept and make use of everybody in the organization. It's now not a matter of one person, what's you, it's you. It doesn't matter. We're all one team. Security needs you to do this. They can do it themselves. They don't need to be involved with that particular aspect. They can just, or involve somebody else. They can just go and hit a button. Here's your information that you need. Yes, I've locked down this account. Yes, I've put this on some, legal hold or legal, I forgot the term for it. I've got legal monitor. I'm monitoring their email. I'm monitoring all this stuff. I can just do it automatically. No reason for a help desk ticket to be called. And it just makes things very, very simple to get it done and be able to do that across the environment. A lot of times nowadays we see people, as David said, as our David Bola said, that the ability to have it as a SaaS is important. So we're a SaaS, but we also have focused on how we not only talk to SaaS-based applications, which is easier than pie, but what about the on-prem systems? Yeah. Everyone's, well, the world's going to, it's all SaaS-based. No, it's not. 60 to 70% of your workloads are still being run on-prem. That's not an imaginary number. It's not an imaginary thing. It's real. And so you have to support those just as well as you support the cloud. You can't just get away with it. And that's the reason with many vendors is they look at it as, well, yeah, we look at all the cloud stuff we can do, and we can do all this different stuff. Well, that's great. You only covered 60 or 40, 30 to 40%, let's say, of my problem. The stuff that's really on fire is the stuff that was 20 years, 30 years old that I have no way of replacing right now. And I just can't do it. So I have to work with that as well. And so there's so much fun stuff here. And one step further is think about all the things that are not identity related. So it's, if I hire a new developer, what has to happen? I create an that fits into, if I look at Gartner's, critical capabilities, it's identity lifecycle management, right? It's the ILM. Right. There's this other one in there called fulfillment that everyone seems to forget. It like got dropped off someplace and people forgot about it. But fulfillment is all the other stuff that has to be done. And those are always, always, always help desk tickets. Yep. And so it's, hey, I hired this new developer. I need to go set up a development environment for them. I need to go license them for Visual Studio or whatever it might be. I need to go get them an account in AWS and all these different things. And not just a normal account, This isn't just like, hey, just, here's an account. I mean, to have service principles created. Tell me an IGA that does all that. They don't. What they do is they create a help desk ticket. Great. Happy for you. Pass the buck automation. That's what they're really good at doing.
But now it's automated. See, I have an automated ticket.
Automated hire creation work for you. Congratulations. Well, we can do all those things. That's what we focused on, is how do I do all those other things out there? And the benefit that we found with this is, give you just an example of a real organization. So we have an organization that, if you're calling up certain large companies, it is one of their employees, business process operator here, and you're talking to one of them. Well, they bring on like 1,000 users a week. That's just for joiners. Doesn't even deal with movers and leavers. That's just people in there. So they come in and they get hired through this normal kind of bifurcated process where you go through the normal Oracle HR to Oracle IGA, get put in AD and all the things so I can get paid and get in the front door and all that kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden it moves to the wild, wild west. The process breaks down. Not that they're not doing their job. The problem is they can't, because every customer is different and they always want something unique. So what happens is if they go into the spreadsheet and they sit there and enter in all this information, they pump it into ServiceNow, it creates 12,000 tickets or something to bring on those 1,000 people for the week. And then somebody is running around. There used to be 12 people running around with their hair on fire trying to get it done. One of our guys calls it, swivel chair automation, where you're like doing this.
Yep.
That's literally what they were doing. They would have multiple monitors, looking at this one, they turn over here and do this. And they're trying to get it done. And it wasn't done right. It wasn't done on time. And the problem is they can't change the process. And that's really where Agile identity comes into this, is that if I can make it so you don't have to change your process, wouldn't that be faster? It's a bad process. Even if it's not the greatest process in the world, I can still automate it to take the variability and take the people out of that process for now. And then guess what? Now you got people to actually go and fix the problems that are causing the process not to work in the first place.
Yep.
So when we went in there, we were able to do it in 45 days. It was impossible. They tried it with the one IGA. They tried it with ServiceNow. Both said after 6 months, nope, we're done. Resigning from the Jedi Council. We're out of here. We're leaving.
I'm going to Tatooine, man.
We're going to Tatooine and we're going to hang out some, we went in there and did it in 45 days. Why? Because we didn't tell them to change their process. What we did is we automated the somewhat bad process that they had. Those people then went and they fixed the process. So what happens now is, originally it was 3 minutes for us to go and process these events coming in. Now it's 27 seconds. Did we make the process, the platform faster? No. Did we do? No. They changed the process. So it took out more and more variability out of it. And so it gives you that time to go and do it when it's appropriate. The need to do identity automation or to do provisioning or the whole JML process, whatever it happens to be, it shouldn't be dependent on whether or not everything is perfect in advance.
Yeah, that's the key. And yeah, so I just want to jump on there for just a second, because that is actually the key for me, is you don't have to be perfect. How many identity projects start with, we need to make everything perfect so that identity project will work? Yeah, no, none of that. And you take 12,000 was the number that JT quoted there, and that was real. Right? That's every week. And even getting that down from 12,000 to 8,000 is a big win, right? That's like a third of the problem. But it's actually clawing, and then because it's agile and iterative, you start by going from 12 to 8, then you go to 8 to 6, then you go from 6 to 4, then you go from 4 to 1, and then now you've got, as JT says, the time to go fix it, because you can take on this piece, get it automated, take on this piece, get it automated, see results, iterative, next phase, get this down, bang. That's agile identity.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that it always brings me discomfort when I have to explain to customers. They're like, okay, I want to go buy a tool, man. This is just too much. I want to go buy an IGA tool. And I'm just like, okay, cool. That's fine. We got to talk about what your process is and how to, it's like, oh, we don't want to do all this work. We just want to go buy. I'm like, listen, I can't in good faith sit here and tell you to go buy something, because you're going to go buy it. And then by the time you buy it and finish it, because if you don't do this work, you're never going to get what you want done. Like, unfortunately, like, you have to go figure out like what that process is to go to at least a little bit to go put this in place so you can actually get something done, right? Like it's not a, my wish and for the next couple of years, the drum that I'll be beating to every single vendor is, for the love of God, make this shit easier. That's what, like,
No, you're right.
Sorry. Okay, here comes rant 3. I knew it was gonna come eventually. Like, that's your freaking job, right? Like, if you're a vendor, you created a company, a software company, because I'll take out the greedy capitalism of it. Like, somebody got greedy, wanted to make $1 billion. Okay, cool, whatever. But like, you hired a bunch of engineers whose job it is to understand theory and computing and make a computer do certain stuff to make it easier for somebody to go do something else, right? Your job is to go and say, hey, we can do this better or easier. So we're going to create a software to go do that. And we're always going to be, looking to solve those problems. And I feel like, honestly, this industry just got fucking lazy. They did. They just said, like, all right, well, we'll just kind of half solve your problem. And then we don't, like, and all these reasons, oh, it's too expensive to innovate or this and blah. Like, it's just like, okay, what? And they're real things. I get it. You're running a company and you've sold, you sold to customers. You got to deal with customers. You got support. You got all these things or whatever. Tough. Like, that's what you got into. Like, but you get away from the aspect of, I got in this to solve a customer's problem. All right, to constantly make this better to solve the problem. And they got away from that. Why? Because it was easy. And let's just be honest, right? If I could give you an automated spreadsheet and put that in front of you and you were happy with that and you're paying me hundreds of $1,000s a year, why would I give you? I get it. Margins. I like money too, but I just, the core engineer in me, the problem solver in me is like, well, we're not helping them solve their problems. And that's now where technology is, our ability to do something. I mean, guys, it's just crazy the world we live in right now. For me, right? When I started as an engineer, software engineer, like coding, like I still love it, right? And even then, I was like, it's pretty. Once you learn, it's pretty easy, right? You can put together a nice program in a matter of, then it was like a couple of weeks. I'll build the test. Like I could bump you a production level project in probably like 2 months, easy. Right now, are you kidding me? Like, guys, we could we could take a lunch break, and between SaaS and other stuff, like we could stand up a production ready, like anything, like in minutes, like literally. And so it kills me to see the lack of kind of innovation in this industry. So again, that's why I love what I'm seeing now in identity and these new companies coming in. I love your guys' take and approach on it and kind of challenging that narrative of like, well, it's got to, you got to be perfect. You got to do all this stuff first before you can actually get something done. And I think that's going to be, powerful, man. I'm rooting for you guys because I want to see change for those customers. I as boring as identity is, and we kind of talked about this in the pre-show, right? Like, that's why I always try and make this stuff fun and joke about it, because I was like, I've been in this thing 20 years. I love it, but it is boring. But as boring as this is, right? I still want customers to get some satisfaction out of this, right? Like, I hate seeing those customers, because like I ran into one guy a couple of months ago at an event, and he's just like, yeah, I got tapped to lead up identity, and he was not excited about it. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't be excited about it either. Because it's like, he knows what he's walking into. And I like, and I'll say our, because I'm still a product guy at heart. Like, that's our job. We're technologists. It's our job to make that easier for that guy. Now, we can't fix all of his business process or whatever, but to which you guys just beautifully articulated, we can give you tools to go get stuff done while you do fix the process. That's what we're supposed to do, right? That's helping. So kudos to you guys. I love it. All right. I think I'm all out of rants for this episode, but maybe.
Yeah, and one of the things to think about too with this is, when we talk about our agile identity, it's not just all about us, right? It's about, hey, I've got an IGA already deployed, and I don't have connectors to all these different systems, and I don't have a way to get this data efficiently. I can't connect to these on-prem, and I can't do all these other things. And that's really where we look at agile identity and say, well, if you have an IGA and we just need to extend its capabilities, that should be part of your agility. It's,
Yeah.
you can use this to actually make yourself more agile, even if you've already made that investment. What's the average lifespan of an identity project, of identity product? It's only 7 years, according to Gartner, right? That's 7 years in an organization before they start looking at something else. Well, what if you could take that investment and leave it there and simply make it better? Make it work the way you expected it to work 7 years ago.
Yep.
Get done what the vendor couldn't do. And it's not to pick on them. I understand why. I mean, I worked for a major software vendor for years, and I understand the issues that come in with it all and why they don't always do all these different things. But you just had a way to get it done fast and effectively, you would do it. And that's what's happening now is organizations are, flocking over going, tell us how to connect to this system that we do not have a way to deal with because this data is so freaking bad. We don't even know how to get it cleaned up.
Yeah.
We don't
And
have the time.
yeah, exactly. And it's not even necessarily these systems. It's, you know what, there's this thing we need to do here where we need to go and revoke this pass, or we need to call this method, or we need to go and like those extra bits. It's not, Dave, you said it right early on, right? Governance kind of went to being this application centric. I'm going to get all these apps in, I'm going to upload them, I'm going to show you my beautiful screen about how much your house is on fire. Awesome. How about we put out some of the fires for you? The fires you can't reach, or the ones that you don't have the right connectors for, or you can't get connected to that fire hydrant, or maybe we'll put in a couple of new fire hydrants, or right iteratively. I put in a new fire hydrant, I've got that thing out of control. You guys worry about the next one. Hey, you know what we did the next month? We put these 3 fire hydrants in, and now it's taking care of more of the house. And you know what we also did? We summoned in some reinforcements so that you're not fighting quite so many Dark Jedi when they attack the temple. Like all of these sorts of things, right? Like iteratively start putting out fires. That's what we want you to do.
And we know it's heretical. We know it is.
Heresy.
I mean,
what do you mean it's not a 3-year project?
I mean, I ran a practice, worked for a software, and I was an analyst, so I had to preach that hymn book. And Kevin Campman and other guys over at Gartner created the maturity model and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Because that was the best experience that we had.
Yeah.
Well, now we're more like the gray Jedi here. We're coming in saying, hey, wait a second. There's a balance between the good side, both sides here. I need to be really fast and agile, even though I know the process isn't perfect. And yeah, I want to get to this state. Well, guess what? But if I go from this state and use an agile approach to get to it, now I can actually do it. And I'm not stuck. I'm not just, okay, well, imagine being I've been to board meetings before, like representing Novell at companies where they're like, please explain this to us, why we don't have this thing turned on. Well, remember when we started, we told you this was the process. Well, it's now 18 months. Well, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. That's a fun conversation to have, right? Point the finger back at them. Well, we can make that so much easier for you. We can make it fun. It's not a prison sentence anymore. Hey, I'm going to get this stuff done and look at my real productivity. So one of the things we do in our bots is we actually put ROI data on every time the bot is run. You put ROI data on it. So every time you're getting a calculation, it tells you this service desk ticket costs this much money to actually run or to accomplish.
Nice. Yeah.
We actually add that and give you that metric. So one of our customers, just for their service desk automation in 1 year, it's $700,000, and they've only started less than half of what they need to automate inside of there. They've saved $700,000 just in that aspect. Doesn't include all the other things they use it for, but just for that one aspect.
I don't want to, about that particular incident, those aren't our numbers. You look at ROI calculators and people, and it's always skewed to our reality, and like we try and make it sound like we're going to save you $17 million. Yeah, so that they'll spend 200,000, whatever the math is. These are their internal numbers.
Yeah, nice.
Their internal numbers are saying this is how much money Readibots is saving them. Because why? We jumped in, we solved the problem, then we solved another one, and now we're in the process of solving some more with them.
Amen. Keep solving problems, right?
Keep solving problems, save some money, and continue. It's logged. There's just so much benefit out of it. That's what we do.
Guys, this was awesome. This was fun. Thank you guys so much for doing this and hanging out. We're gonna take a really quick U-turn as we close this out. Or not a U-turn, a shift. So recently, I had posted on LinkedIn about kind of doing something a little bit differently, right? I asked, who out there likes to talk about identity and gaming, right? And specifically, when I went back looked at the grammar, people got confused on that. It's not necessarily about talking about identity and gaming, but like actual gaming and talking identity. So one of the things that I am going to put together. I haven't picked the game yet, so I will take suggestions, and I'm taking in suggestions. But I'm going to do like a different type of webinar where we all hop on a game. We'll stream it live. We'll get in and have a good conversation about identity, but we'll also be playing some games. What I've been hearing so far, like I love to play Apex Legends. Helldivers has been suggested like 4 or 5 else. There was another one.
Ooh, Among Us. Try Among. You should put a poll together and just list 7 or 8 games and let the world decide.
That's, you know what? I like that. I think I'll kind of put that together.
I like Among Us because Among Us is fundamentally an identity problem. So that's one of the reasons I like it. Plus, my kids kick my butt in it.
So all right. So while I will put together the poll, but while I'm talking about this, I'll ask you two, like what game would you guys like to see us jump in and kind of do this different type of webinar feel to?
All right, so I already put my hand. Putting my hat in Among Us, and you haven't played Among Us until you've had your children say to you, "Dad, you are sus," and then pitch you out of an airlock. So just the visual there. Ah! Yeah.
And then I'm Googling, what does sus mean?
I had to do that too the first time. Now I know it's a part of my vernacular. I hear it all the time.
Like, do you speak English anymore? This is a new.
They do. It's just their own form.
Yeah.
Sus is short for suspicious, which means your activities are not in line with someone who's not trying to kill me. Get out of the airlock.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, Apex Legends. Just I have a family connection there. You know, my son's on that team. So, hey, Jer. Other ones, Sator, create a guild that runs around on Star Wars: The Old Republic. Again, I've got the mothership. I've got the guild. I've got billions of credits. Happy to leverage those for it. But yeah, whatever it is, I'll be on with you. Happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. Sounds like fun.
Oh no, this is gonna be fun. We're gonna figure this out. I want to make this happen. A lot of stuff going on this month. Identiverse coming up at the end of the month, so this probably won't be until June, but we'll figure something out. So, guys, again, thank you so much. Thanks to Readibots for sponsoring this episode, this show. This was fantastic conversation. Looking forward to doing more stuff with you guys, and for everybody else, like I said at the beginning, if you're looking to sponsor, please reach out, identityjedi@gmail.com. We'll talk about it. But let's wrap this up. You guys know what it is. Please like, rate, subscribe, comment wherever you're listening to this one. If you're listening to it on Spotify or on podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate it. It goes a long way. Don't forget to subscribe to the Identity Jedi newsletter. It comes out every 2 weeks. I'm getting back to consistency, people. We just dropped one last yesterday, but we're back every 2 weeks. You want to subscribe? theidentitijedi.com. And as always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, love each other. We'll see you guys on the next show.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us, Dave.